Hi, my name is Darrell Dickinson. I'm a board member of the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center, and today, welcome to another edition of Vibrant Living. Today we have the opportunity to interview the Chief Executive Officer of the YMCA, Dorry Foster. So Dorry, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Darrell.
And you have been here, as I recall, 5 or 6 years now, is that right?
Yeah, 5.5 years.
And I understand that you actually have made Wenatchee your family home.
Yes, we have upwards of 14, 15 people here now that have moved here. I used to say it was migrating because they were just visiting, and now they're all permanently moved here. So yeah, pretty exciting.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of how did the Y start and what's going on and where are you going next?
Yeah, well, it started in London, right? And to take wayward men and bring them back to Christian values. And then when it came to the United States, there was a little bit of the recreation component because you got to keep the boys busy, right? So you add the recreation into it. And then as it should be, as communities evolved, as cultures evolve, there has to be a change. And for instance, the YMCA nationally was the first organization to take over and create childcare during World War II. So this floor right here used to be a child care center, this entire floor during World War II, and that has morphed since then. We have also been, volleyball, you talked about volleyball and basketball, so we're big on that, but we also serve in the healthy living side, we serve a gap, I call it a wellness gap between post-therapy rehab. So you've gotten out of rehab and then you're kind of put on your own, left to your own demise, right? And there's this, you're better, but you're not to complete wellness. And the YMCA has taken over a large percentage of that gap as well. Unfortunately, here in this facility, it's only the few that we can help on that because the physical therapists can't even, because we're not 80 compliant, they can't even refer them to here. So you have to come on your own accord, but we need to do a better job on that. But we do have a therapy swim program that has been active for probably 40 years, that if you get released and you need aqua therapy, you can come here and do your own therapy in the pool, and that's free of charge for 12 weeks. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So this floor has seen a lot of activity over the years, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. You can kind of tell.
And you mentioned basketball. Wasn't basketball developed at the Y?
Yes, yeah, James Naismith, and was it 1861, something like that, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so, I got to actually have the privilege of meeting his grandson, Jan, in Pennsylvania, and had multiple meetings. We were looking at what better we could do in that community at a certain facility that needed some help. So I was privileged enough to be able to meet him and got the signed articles of the 8 original rules of basketball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were they specifically for wayward men, or?
Yeah, I think it was just the rules for basketball, but yes, it was very specifically. You got to keep these boys busy, right? And that has not changed through the years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, shifting, ahead a number of years, there's some big changes that are either going on or being planned for the Y right now, right?
Yeah, big
Tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so we have been in this specific vessel for 111 years.
Here in this building?
Here in this building.
111 years.
Yep, and in this valley serving. And although we've been great stewards of this building, and we can no longer serve our community as a YMCA in this vessel. So the board started back in, I guess it was 2019, started looking at what is our next step? How are we going to serve the next generation and the next 100 years in this community? And they couldn't just use my advice. So we got some data and made some decisions and had third-party people tell us that, yeah, we can no longer stay in this vessel. And this is how we could serve the community. And we got really excited about what that possibility could be. We tested it multiple ways. We talked to community leaders. We talked to our supporters. And then came up with a plan and have our eye on a site at the current PUD location, yet to be determined and yet to be confirmed, but we're hoping to be able to be there because our vision for what the vessel could be, more importantly, how we can impact the people within the vessel. The vessel is just a gateway to what we can provide to people, as you know. And So we're very excited about that, and that would bring a state-of-the-art aquatic center to the community. It would bring an indoor elevated walking track, multiple gymnasiums. So our current gymnasium is one of the few open on the weekends. You know, the schools have gyms, but they're not open to the general public, and ours is on the weekends. But what could that look like if we had 2 gymnasiums, right? So we'd always have one court open for families and pickup ball, and the other one could be used for programs. And great example of that is the Everett Y. They opened 100 days, their new facility, 100 days before COVID, and they are currently serving 1,200 kids in a basketball program where they used to serve only a few hundred. So, you know, the impact of it's hard to believe that a vessel could actually do that, but if it gravitates and get people in there, then it's our job to get them involved. So, yeah, some great plans. So. We are in a quiet phase of a capital campaign, meaning we are intentionally talking to friends and our supporters first, getting their advice, getting their input, and yes, getting donations. We've raised over $4.2 million right now, and really kind of some people are waiting to see where we're going to be. And not that that may change, because we need to have a plan B and a plan C, but our efforts are focused on the PUD site right now.
Great.
So, yeah.
So you say you've raised $4.2 million now.
Yes.
What's the, do you have a final target at all?
Yes, the total project's $22 million. Okay. There's some money coming from state and county that we are taking off that. We're reselling this vessel, this building, so take that down. We tested $15 million in the private sector. And a private consultant said, you better get busy because the people want this and the money is there. So so we started, and that was less than a year ago, and our first donation was $1 million unsolicited gift from an anonymous donor that said, you better get busy on this. We want this for our community, and maybe this will help, you know, catapult things forward, and which it did. So yeah, so we are a little bit less, if you take everything into equation, we're about a little bit less than $10 million continued to raise for that. So
great, well, that's a good ambitious goal, but
yes, it is.
Knowing the generosity of this community and valley, I'm sure it's very reachable.
Yes, I believe so too.
So when you and I initially met several weeks ago, and of course I'm with the Senior Center, and we were talking about collaborative efforts, and I know that you already have a lot of collaborative efforts going on that you mentioned with different programs and agencies and whatnot. We also talked about the Y started with younger men, and now it's evolved to pretty much a generic population as I walk around and see. What are some things that you have for older adults?
Oh gosh, what don't we have? So we have targeted group exercise classes. We videotaped one a little bit earlier. And I hesitate to say senior because there's a lot of 20-year-olds, you know, taking the targeted senior classes, but the 15 older group, it's a little bit gentler. There's a little bit less like, what are they going to do? We know exactly what we're going to do. That fear factor of what if they do something that I can't do? There's always a modification to the classes that we have. So there, you know, naturally is a gravitation towards that, towards people that want to be in control and want to feel comfortable in a class. So we have multiple land classes. We also have multiple water classes too. So, you know, for those people that really pounding on the ground maybe not be beneficial to their health, and really the only way they can stay active is really active is in the water. So we have a lot of group exercise classes in the water. We have targeted yoga classes, you know, simple things like that, where not everybody can do a downward dog, right? So everything is modified. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then what we do really well, that sense of community, as do you all, that, you know, get them in the building, but then intentionally connecting them. So for instance, if you were to come in as a new member and I took you through a tour, I would ask you, is this the time of day that you would typically work out, Daryl? And if you said yes, I would intentionally introduce you to people in the fitness center, not just the wellness coach. So your first day, you're like, oh, I know him. I remember Frank from my tour, and immediately feel more comfortable. And then when you see other people talking, because it's, the exercise is maybe 86%. The other part's all about the social. So that sense of family, that sense of a second home is really important for us here. So we work on the intentionality of that culture. Yeah.
At the Senior Activity Center, we find similar things. It's the social aspect is equally important to any other programs that we have going on.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier volunteers. Is there a way that you can obviously use volunteers, but let's say for older people that might want to volunteer their time and efforts, anything in particular that you have needs for, or how do they get involved?
Yes and yes. So the needs are vast. So nationally, there is a shortage of lifeguards. And when we don't have a lifeguard, we can't open that pool. So if anybody has a wherewithal, any age group that wants to come help us and be a lifeguard, we will train you and we will pay you. We cannot not pay our lifeguards. But on a group exercise level, Sylvia, we filmed Sylvia earlier, she is a volunteer teaching water exercise in the pool. We have Nanette, who has volunteered for us for 43 years in group exercise. We can't thank her. And how do you thank a 42-year volunteer? I'm not quite sure, but there's that sense of, again, that community that she just can't let go of. And Sylvia stepping up when leadership, when our staff had to leave. So there's always that opportunity. If you have a passion, and you want to share that, I urge you to come here and talk to us first to see if we can fill that niche for you, and then fill that bucket for other people that really may be excited about that too. We have our talented staff, but at the same time, when somebody says, boy, have you guys ever thought about that? We're like, yes, would you like to do it? That's where we're at a point now, because there's just not enough employees available to do all the things that we could do. So,
right. And I know in our experience dealing with seniors have a wealth of experience and knowledge, and to have them share that is really beneficial.
Here's another great example. When we took over the mentoring program, so this is pretty much the only one, I believe, in the Valley, a one-to-one volunteer opportunity. So it's a mentor and mentee, and it's specifically that way to build that relationship. And it's not for academics. It's nothing more than just an adult caring for a kiddo that needs, whether it's a male figure or a female figure in their life, and just that extra support. And one story that our very first mentor we had was Ed Baugh. Many people know Ed, and Ed and Barb. He taught at Eastmont for several years. Well, he was a mentor volunteer, and he got Tyson. And Tyson is actually an employee of the Y now. He works for us at camp. But Tyson, I think when he started, was he 11 or 12? And when we asked Tyson what was important to him about his relationship with Ed, it was just like, it's an adult that's taking his individual time and caring for me and caring what I think and listening to me without the distractions of the phone, distractions of life. And Tyson has wonderful parents and a large age group between siblings, and multiple jobs, and they don't always have the time that some of these kiddos need. And so that relationship worked really well for Ed and Tyson. And again, Tyson's a staff member of the Y now, and it just warms my heart to think that they continue with their relationship and their mentorship. And although it technically stops when they're 17, before they turn 18, I know the relationship continues. It's
been a pleasure to visit with you. And anything else you would like to say that we haven't covered?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot in
we
a
have,
short
we have
period
indeed.
of time.
Well, thank you for your time, and we look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Yes.
And doing more of this intergenerational exchange.
Yes.
And thank you for the great work that you and the Y do.
Thank you. Thank you for your work as well.
Thank you for watching.